Oh, shit, I'm recording. Sorry. We'll delete this bit at the beginning. I haven't even opened the broadcast. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the webinar. We'll be starting in about 1 minute, so please feel free to say hi. Please feel free to tell us where you are dialing in from today. We've accidentally started the recording, so don't worry about that. We'll be editing out, so feel free to say hi, and we'll say hi to you back, of course. Coming to you from blue skies here in Melbourne, but quite cold. And Paula, what's it like over in Perth?
It's actually a little overcast and raining, and we normally have such good weather.
We're so sorry to hear that. Hi,
No,
Elizabeth. Lovely to see
you. You're not sorry to hear that at all.
Hi, Joanna. Welcome from Melbourne as well. It's great to see everyone jumping on the line. Long time no here. Well, it's good to have you back. Hi, Jono. Good to have you back, Elizabeth. Excellent. Georgia, dialing in from Sydney. Welcome back. It's good to see you here. And sunny. Yeah, it's very funny in Sydney. Good to hear. Hi, Chris. Welcome back. Good to see you again as well. I love this check-in with everybody. Tell us how you're feeling today. Tell us, tell us what's happening. Yeah.
I agree.
Down the road. Yeah.
Cold and wet.
Hi, India. Yeah, poor Perth. Sometimes we don't have much sympathy for Perth because we've got best weather all the time. We're like, oh yeah, okay, one rainy day doesn't hurt. Yeah, Friday, good feeling about Friday, isn't it? Yeah, sunny in Sydney. I'm very jealous. All righty. Well, I think we should get this coaching cafe going. And as always, it's great to see everyone. So thank you for joining us. Let me pause because we've already got the recording going and now we have to edit the beginning of it. So we are coming to you live, of course. So we'll just pause for a minute. And say a very good afternoon to you, or good morning wherever you are listening to our podcast live or watching this webinar live. Perhaps you're listening to this podcast on your favorite streaming service. My name is Natalie Ashdown from the Open Door Coaching Group, and it is great to welcome you and our dear, wonderful resident HR specialist, Paula-Jones Hunt, to the line. Good morning, Paula.
Hi, Natalie. Lovely to be here.
And today we are on our coaching cafe thinking about asking better questions during our performance conversations. And it's very exciting because we've been saying hello to everyone on the line, and I'm looking at you all, getting ready for you to jump in and share your great questions with us as well. As always, before we begin, let us acknowledge the traditional owners on the lands of which we're all meeting today, and their continuing connection to the land, waters, and the communities of Australia, and our international Indigenous owners of traditional lands internationally. We pay our respects to you all, to elders past, present, and emerging. So our agenda for today, we're going to continue our series around annual performance conversations. We are very keen to really drill into why this topic is so important. Many of you on the line know that already, but we've got some recent research for you as well, just to highlight why we need to be focusing on coaching during performance conversations. We want to share our performance conversation model with you. And of course, I'm looking at all the great coaches on the line. We want to be generating questions together. And Paula, my eyes are on you to help us with this as well, with your vast knowledge of a wealth of knowledge and experience. For those of you that are new to the Coaching Cafe, I always say welcome to you all. We are all about creating a community, sharing our thought-provoking conversations and sharing our experience. We come together at this time every Friday live, and you then have the opportunity to listen as you're doing now on the podcast. And if you're keen to pick up your ICF CCEUs, then that will be available at the end of the session. So why are these conversations so important? Well, we know they're important. We talked about that last week and the week before in terms of looking for an uplift in performance from people, and the impact on people and people's performance if we do performance conversations really poorly. But let me offer you these statistics as well. And Paula, I'd be interested in your commentary as well. Employees who strongly agree that they've had conversations with their manager in the past 6 months about their goals and successes are 2.8 times more likely to be engaged. So managers are nearly 3 times more engaged if employees have been engaging in these conversations with their managers. So that's the upside. The downside is, though, that traditional approaches to performance evaluations are deeply flawed, says the research from Gallup.com. For example, only 14% of employees strongly agree that the reviews they receive inspire them to perform better. Kind of breaks my heart. Only 26% of employees strongly agree that they are accurate. Only 29% strongly agree that they are fair. And so not surprisingly, the result is that performance reviews actually make performance worse about 1/3 of the time. And that is research from Gallup. Paula, you have probably the most experience that I know of around this topic and engaging managers around performance conversations. What's your reaction to those great statistics, 2.8 times more likely to be engaged, but also strongly agree that they're not accurate, not fair, and they are actually worse? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I guess I'm not surprised on both counts, really. And I think that the key point is, and we talked about it in one of the other ones too, is that this conversation, your performance review conversation, should be the 12th conversation that you have in a 12-month period, because you're having regular conversations with your staff members along the way. So if you're doing that, and if you're asking really great coaching questions, and if you're really engaging that person to take ownership of their role and responsibilities, know what it is that they need to do, of course they're going to be more likely to be engaged and succeed. It makes perfect sense. If on the flip side of that, you're using the performance review if you're not going into it with a view of engaging and being successful and building that person up, if you're going in there to let them know that they're not doing a great job, the performance review is actually not the right place for that, and it is very likely to demotivate someone. You want to be having those conversations as things are popping up that aren't working, rather than saving it all up in a bottle to throw it out there. But even if that's not what you're wanting to do, if you're going into these conversations and you're focusing on the form, what is the form, fill the form in, make sure I fit the form, then your staff aren't going to be that excited about those conversations either. What they really want to do is to be able to present how they feel about what they've been doing and get some feedback on how that's working and what's going on. And if you can have a really great conversation, you're going to lift that engagement. If you're not having a really great conversation, it's going to squish engagement like a bug.
Absolutely. Yes. And we will talk about those trickier conversations in our next Coaching Cafe as well. And you're absolutely right, Paula. The conversations are a great opportunity to celebrate the year, to think about how we've added value. Thinking about also Annalee's presentation last week, for those of you that missed it, it has become one of our most highly rated podcasts, looking at the gender penalties in particular around performance conversations and the gender gap when it comes to women and performance conversations. So I am concerned also that not only are we having potentially a negative impact generally on people if we're not taking a coaching approach, but that impact is actually escalated or amplified when it comes to women in particular. So what I'm interested in, and this is where we have all these great coaches on the line as well, what are we going to do about this? Let's do something about it. And what I want to offer everyone today, and for those of you that have done Open Doors Certificate 4 in Workplace and Business Coaching, you'll be familiar with Open Doors Performance Conversation Model. And I remember when we actually redesigned this model, I was sitting on a plane. I think I was heading to Perth, actually, Paula. So I had 4 hours to think about this. And I just wrote across the top of my page, how do we do performance conversations better? And I just started really brainstorming, like, what are the top questions that we need to ask to be able to do performance conversations better, to coach people during performance conversations. And we already had a frame of this model, and then I think we've just made it better. So I would really encourage everyone on the line to jump in with other questions that they'd like to ask as well. And Paula, of course, I'll throw to you. The performance conversation model that we have, it starts with proud. We want to be asking people that we're coaching, we want to be asking people that we're having conversations with, what's gone well? What is going well for you? What have you achieved? And remembering that many people actually undervalue their performance. Now, you do have the overraters, and we'll talk about that next week. But a lot of people, and as we talked about last week, particularly women, undervalue their performance. So what are you particularly proud of is one of my favorite questions. How did you play to your strengths? What do we need to celebrate? So like you said, Paula, this is the 12th conversation in a series of conversations, and now we're summarising what we're proud of, how we've added value, what we feel like we've achieved through the past year. Do you want to add some extra questions there?
Well, I guess I'd just add in here too is that you actually be quite surprised that maybe what you think they are proud of is not the things that they're actually proud of. And that there's smaller things that come through when asking these types of questions. So they're actually beautiful gifts to give to people to go, what is it that what are you really proud of? What did you work on that you're really proud of? What piece of work is most significant for you for this period of time? Where did you have the most fun this year? What were you doing that really engaged you and activated your enthusiasm? So they're just really good opportunities, and for managers too, anyone on the line, honestly, save yourself all the heartache of having to think that you have to drive this whole conversation. I'm saying give it back to the people, give it back to the person it's about, to get them to tell you what's going on as well. So it's an opportunity for that person to really click in and acknowledge the things that they thought they did really well.
Yeah, thank you. And I definitely agree with you there, Paula, that you can and actually should, give these questions to your employees so that they frame the conversation in a really positive way. And Elizabeth, thank you jumping in saying, asking the question around what motivates you or what's motivated you the most this year. Georgia, thank you. She said it's also an opportunity to align the team or the organisation values, or align to a team or organisational values. So thinking about how are you contributing to the values? How have you contributed to the team this year? What have you achieved the most around that? And then Jono just giving his endorsement here, saying that he loves the model, continues to use it to this day. And last week, even with 2 annual reviews with his team. So yeah, absolutely. This is what we're trying to do, is give you some really good practical coaching questions to help you move forward. And giving those questions to your team members to think about in preparation is wonderful. The other thing I like about this is we can also add to it. So this is how I've seen you, this is what I've seen you achieve. This is how I've seen you align to the organisational values. This is how I see that you've contributed to the team this year and added value. So all of those questions are really, all of that additional commentary is really important as well. We can also talk about the challenges. So let's talk about the challenges. Now, this is not the old hamburger approach. We're not saying something good, saying something bad, saying something good. What we're thinking about is there's things that you have achieved. There's going to have been challenging times throughout the year. So where have you experienced challenges this year? What was the impact of those challenges? How did you overcome those challenges? So this is what we're celebrating from a performance review point of view, is how the person overcame those challenges. And I really want to add in there around what lessons did you learn? So the performance conversation is a great opportunity for reflection. What lessons did we learn from those challenges that we can do differently? What can we change? What's still outstanding? And what strengths did you actually call upon? We know that a strengths-based approach to performance conversations has the opportunity to have a 36.5% uplift in performance. That's what the research is suggesting. And even the recent research increases engagement, decreases absenteeism, increases productivity. So thinking about where you've experienced the challenges, but also how you overcame those challenges, I think are really important questions. Paula, what would you like to add to this?
Yeah, I agree on all of that, is that it's not about not acknowledging that there were challenges, because if you're not being challenged, then you're probably not, like, you need challenges in life. In that growth mindset, it says you might not be there yet, but let's have a look at it and look at what's going on. So yeah, where was the greatest challenge? What proved the most difficult for you this year? But I think you are very right. And then it's looking at, and then what did you do about that? And what was the greatest learning that you got? And how will you now utilize this learning that you've got in what you do moving forward?
Yes, I really like those questions. There is definitely an opportunity to pause the recording if you're listening to this later. Write down all these questions, send them to your team members. You are taking a coaching approach, and that's obviously what we're talking about today. So we are then scaffolding what you're talking about there, Paula, by thinking about the improvements now. So we're thinking about where you've come from, what you're proud of, what you've overcome, and the reflective questions come into this around what can you focus on for continuous improvement. So where will your focus be this year for continuous improvement? Everyone knows me knows my favorite questions is, what would you like to change or do differently? This can bring out some really, really great information. It's good opportunity for feedback as well. And then, of course, what would be the benefit of the change? So we're not just going to run around doing change for change's sake. What would be the benefit of change? This is where we can actually untap some of the ideas that people might have been thinking about. The performance conversation is not the time to unpack all of those ideas, but it is definitely an opportunity to put a pin in them and think about how we can come back to them. Feel free, the coaches on the line, please jump in and tell us what other questions you're thinking about here as well. We're happy to pick up your questions. Paula, I really think, we live and breathe continuous improvement, as you know, change and doing things differently and learning and reflecting. What's your response when I suggest that we need to focus on these things during performance conversations as well?
Yeah, absolutely, because you're setting up your next 12 months. So what you're looking at is you're saying, this was what happened in the last 12 months. This is what I'm really proud of. These are some of the areas we had challenges in it. Acknowledge it and talk about it. And then the improvement is what does the next 12 months look like, and what will we be focusing on in our monthly catch-ups until the next year, the next 12 months comes along. So the improvement is really a key element here, because for me, it's the how do we move forward now? We know this, we know what happened. How do we move forward? What are we going to do with this information? Where are we going to focus your strengths this year? What's the impact that you want from where we're going to focus this? How can you further contribute to the organization through the values, through the what we're trying to focus on? What's the impact that you'd like to have on your team moving forward? How would you like to connect in from a relationship perspective and build on what you've already established?
I love all of those questions. And as always, a great opportunity for me to pause and start writing them all down. And Elizabeth's jumped in with, how Will those improvements align with your goals and objectives, or your KPIs, your KRAs, or whatever it is that you're being measured on? Patty, thank you for jumping in and saying, which of your strengths will you use to achieve those improvements and change? So what a fantastic question as well. So taking that strengths-based approach to coaching and the strengths-based approach to the performance review doesn't mean that we're not thinking about weaknesses. We're thinking about where there's a weakness, where there's a non-strength, what will you do to overcome those weaknesses? How will you ensure that it doesn't limit your performance or limit the performance of the team? Or is it allowable? So when we take a strengths-based approach, we're thinking about, well, how will you use your strengths, and are those weaknesses allowable given the team that we actually have around us? So thank you for bringing that back as well, Patty. I appreciate that. And finally, we're thinking about the plan. So most performance conversations lead to some form of documentation of a plan, documentation of development areas, documentation of key things to be thinking about in the forthcoming period. And so all of these questions around what steps can you take to move forward? What's the plan for the next period? So I like 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, year. What resources do you need? How can you leverage your strengths? How can I support you as your coach or as your manager? And I really like to think about the question that George has asked here too. How would you like to feel moving forward? So we might be working with people who are not feeling as good about their situation. So how would you like to feel? And we can pick that up in a further conversation as well. Thanks for that pickup as well, Elizabeth. We like to talk about development areas instead of weaknesses, as you said. So yeah, I don't like to use the term weaknesses. That comes out with strengths discussions. But these, we'll talk about that as well. We've got a webinar planned around strengths-based performance conversations as well. So these questions about what's the plan, what are we going to, it's not just what are we going to write in this box here. It says fill out, your development. It's not about thinking about, oh, let's find some courses that you need to do. Of course, if that course is our certificate for workplace and business coaching, of course, that's fine. But what are the major goals or milestones plans for the forthcoming year? Paula, what do you think about this kind of approach to summarising, the way forward?
Yeah, I like to think about it if we're having this conversation in 12 months' time, what are some of the things that you want to be proud of? What are some of the things that you've worked on that you're really happy about? What do we want to be talking about in this conversation in 12 months' time? So that instead of just focusing on KPIs, which are very critical and HR people love them, but it's more about how do I bring those KPIs to life? And what will that look like and feel like when we're having this conversation in 12 months' time? And obviously we chunk it down, but it's setting it up to say, what is our vision? What is your vision for the next 12 months of what you want to achieve in the role that you're doing in this organisation?
It's a really great approach that you're talking about there, Paula. I'm thinking about, for the coaches on the line, about future pacing. So about thinking about, let's track forward 12 months time and look back on the year that we've had. So it's June 2024, for example. What kind of year do we want to have had? What do you want to be saying at this time next year that you're proud of, that you've achieved? And it's a really nice way of doing it. So thank you for bringing that up, Paula. For those of you that are listening to this live, feel free to take a screenshot of our slide here, or you can pick it up in the blog as well for those people that are listening to this on your favourite streaming service. We're thinking about how do we have great conversations during our performance conversation season. How do we focus on what people are proud of? Let's talk about the challenges. Let's talk about what they've learned and do that reflection around improvement, and then finalise it with what are we going to do to move forward. So the plan kicks in here as well. Feel free to jump in, anybody, as you're thinking about the different questions. It just provides a really simple framework for moving forward. I think performance conversations often go astray because people are not prepared. They haven't really thought about it. And as we've talked about in our past webinars, particularly last week's webinars, people are really underrating themselves. So more preparation to ensure that you're bringing out your best here, I think will make a massive difference. The pre-reflection, as Georgia has suggested, is really valuable. Yeah.
And I think
Paula, other thoughts?
Yeah, what you said before is actually a key point. This is not the whole purpose of this exercise is not to trip people up. It's not to get a terrible experience. It's supposed to be an opportunity for feedback on both sides and to figure out what happened and reflect and be really proud of things and move forward. So it's not, you don't have to keep the questions a secret. I actually think, as well as the pre-performance evaluation form that most organisations have, I think having these questions and saying, here's some questions to think about and let's have a talk about it in the session.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really, really important. Well, our questions, thank you, Patty. So Patty's jumped in and suggested that her questions the questions for her organisation are given 2 weeks in advance. So that is fantastic for people. A good kind of time frame, isn't it? Not months ago, so they lose them. But once they're starting to think about that performance conversation about 2 weeks in, 2 weeks out, really nice timing there, I think, as well. Well, thank you, everyone. I do want to just take the last couple of minutes of our Coaching Cafe today just to let you know we have made it a very exciting announcement. All of you who have achieved our Certificate 4 in Workplace and Business Coaching have another opportunity, actually. We have a vision around taking the accredited coach training that we're doing out to the masses, and that means we need you involved. So you have the opportunity to become a level 1 accredited coach trainer. This is with the International Coach Federation. Open Door is an accredited coach training organisation, as you know, we have been for many, many years. And now this is a really exciting opportunity to take the resources, the materials, the work that you know and you've learned and you love, take that to your organisation so you can become a level 1 accredited coach trainer. So if you're interested in this, please hit us up on the website. Please book a time in Paula's diary to talk more about it. We are really keen we'll be running a level 1 accredited coach training course, and we've got our eyes on everyone as a pathway now for you bringing coaching to your organisation. So the announcement was just made last night. You will have all received an email about it, and please feel free to connect with us around that. So thank you, everyone. It's been wonderful to have you join us today. We've got lots of great programs coming up. We also have a special end of financial year deal going on. Lots of great programs for you to connect with us. And of course, if you'd like to take the next step in terms of building a culture of coaching within your organisation, then training in the materials that you know and love, we would be so excited to talk to you about that as well. So thanks, everyone. It's been wonderful to have you join us on the webinar today. Please check in with the last couple of podcasts that we've shared with you as well, because there's some really, really engaging conversations that we've been having around performance conversations, and this will continue for the next couple of weeks. Thank you, everyone. We hope that you really enjoy your coaching, and we look forward to catching up with you at our next podcast.